Neji Hyuga is kind of a pushover. He loses to early Naruto, nearly dies against Kidomaru, and then actually dies to a tree branch. The only enemies he beats outright are Hinata, a weaker version of himself, and Clone Neji, a weaker version of himself. And yet other characters can't stop singing his praises. Neji is the #1 rookie genin. Neji has surpassed the main branch. Neji is a genius. It's hard to take them seriously when there's such a big disconnect between what we're told and what we see with our own eyes. But despite all that, I still think Neji is exactly as good as they say, and against the vast majority of ninja, he's completely overpowered. The losses he suffers aren't nearly as bad as they sound, and are mostly flukes. Naruto has effectively unlimited reserves of Ninetales chakra, and despite having his chakra points closed, it somehow comes out anyway, which doesn't even make any sense. I mean, they even show it moving through the chakra network that was just closed off. In all the ways that mattered, Neji dominated Naruto until his cheat codes kicked in. Kidomaru has a level 2 curse seal, which massively boosts his strength and durability, but that wouldn't even be an issue if it weren't for his metal shell that, quote, blocks chakra. Think about how absurd that is. Everything in the ninja world conducts chakra. Weapons, paper, shoes, loosely scattered hair, other metals. This ability is practically designed to counter Neji. And then there's the tree branch. Yes, it's dumb and so is this scene, but at the very least it's realistic that the two guys with the 10 tails, Hashirama cells, and the Rinnegan could kill him after he had to fight non-stop for several days. And he basically just threw himself in front of it, but his rotation was mostly blocking the branches up to that point. So instead of comparing him to these extreme outliers, let's look at another enemy that no genin should have any business going toe-to-toe with: Zabuza Momochi. Zabuza is a terrifying opponent who bested Kakashi in a one-on-one fight until the kids intervened. He doesn't have any obvious exploitable weaknesses since his power doesn't come from a single special technique. He's fast, strong, and cunning, and you're not going to win by farting on him. So let's go one by one through Zabuza's arsenal and see why Neji still has an overwhelming tactical advantage, even as a genin. To start, we know that water clones and the water prison are proven not to work against Neji, since he handily defeated them against Kisame. Granted, he was several years older by then, but the reasons he was able to beat them were equally valid when he was a genin. Unlike shadow clones, which evenly distribute their chakra, water clones only contain about 10% of the strength of their caster, which is presumably detectable by the Byakugan, making their deception value moot. We see early Sasuke dispatch roughly 8 of Zabuza's water clones no problem, so I can't see Neji performing worse in that situation. And the water prison failed because Neji's gentle fist dismantles substances that are made of chakra. He can do this from every part of his body, so being surrounded doesn't change anything. Next is Zabuza's hiding and mist jutsu, and from this point forward we're going to have to make some assumptions since Neji hasn't faced these techniques personally. The Sharingan and Rinnegan can't see through the mist, so it's unlikely the Byakugan can either, but it's not going to matter for a couple of reasons. Hiding in mist works primarily because you don't know where the next attack is going to come from, but Neji has a near 360-degree view, and the attacks themselves aren't invisible, so he's going to have a much easier time seeing them coming than a regular person. And while Zabuza becomes fully transparent during the jutsu, he always reappears to attack, so sneaking up behind Neji won't work either. But if that weren't enough, Neji still has another trick up his sleeve. He can emit a chakra field that lets him detect and slightly influence the trajectory of objects that enter its radius, so who cares if he can't see? He can just feel it. Now, Neji does have a small blind spot, but probing for it in the mist is also just not feasible. Remember, Zabuza hunts with sound because he can't see through the mist either. Even if by sheer luck he gets an attack through the blind spot, he's not going to know which way Neji was looking, let alone be able to reproduce the effect. And he doesn't have an omnidirectional projectile that can systematically probe for weak points the way Kidomaru did. So overall, I don't think this technique has much advantage, if any. Moving on, we have the Water Dragon Jutsu and the Giant Waterfall Jutsu. I'm lumping these two in together because while the Water Dragon can be guided, they fundamentally operate on the same principle. Gather a large amount of water-natured chakra and try to crush your opponent in one fell swoop. The only difference is the scale of the techniques and how much chakra they consume, but their tactical purpose is more or less the same against a single opponent. These skills more than any other have the most potential to defeat Neji, but I still think Neji has the advantage due to his main defensive skill: rotation. Rotation is Neji's cheat code. It blocks most physical and chakra-based attacks pretty universally, and he can do it till the cows come home, seemingly without too much chakra cost. Tenten speculates that it might be stronger than Gaara's Sand, which is already one of the strongest defenses in the series. And an example of that is, along with his uncle, Rotation was able to stop a swing of the Ten Tails appendage that was ripping up the landscape and ragdolling hordes of soldiers. So between Rotation and the Giant Waterfall Jutsu, how do we know which is stronger? We don't have much evidence, but one of the only times Neji's defense failed was when Naruto slammed into it with the Nine Tails chakra, and the result was that both fighters were knocked back equally, implying they're roughly the same strength. And this same attack was enough to destroy Haku's ice mirrors, a feat Zabuza probably didn't even think was possible. Of course, I'm making a lot of assumptions, but I don't think it's unreasonable that Neji's rotation could block Zabuza's attacks, or at least significantly reduce their effectiveness. And meanwhile, Zabuza's jutsu consume a decent amount of chakra, so he's not going to get many chances to use them. Finally, we have taijutsu, and again Neji has a slight edge. Zabuza is a close-range fighter, which is Neji's ideal scenario. Neji's defense is equally effective against physical attacks, but more importantly, taijutsu puts Zabuza in range of the 8 trigrams 64 palms. Zabuza might be fast, but the moment he gets in range, it's over. He doesn't have a tailed beast, he doesn't have a curse mark, and he's not the reincarnation of some ancient deity, so losing access to his chakra network is going to put him out of commission. Could Zabuza hypothetically dodge the attack? Maybe, but we've never seen it happen in canon, and Neji seems confident that once you're in range, you're done, and it only has to happen once. Now, I'm not saying Neji wins hands down, but given their respective skill sets, Neji has an overwhelming tactical advantage, and the only dial Zabuza can turn is how much power he puts into his attacks. And in a straight fight, he's going to waste a lot of chakra trying to figure out an angle before he can deliver a finishing blow. It's really just a question of whether he can overpower Neji's ultimate defense, and from what we've seen in the series, I don't think he can. So if Zabuza kind of beat Kakashi, and Neji could maybe beat Zabuza, does that mean Neji could beat Kakashi? No, I think there are narrative reasons why that wouldn't happen in the story, and the ability to beat one enemy does not transitively mean you can beat everyone they've beaten. But his promotion to jonen during the time skip makes way more sense if you put him in the same ballpark as Zabuza and Kakashi, and hopefully it puts in perspective just how good Neji is and why everyone hypes him up.